For the admin panel, of course, we go again to admin py and we register our new model there so that we can manage it there. Hence, first of all, we import address from the models file, and then we add admin.site.register address. And we could again add an address admin class if we needed to fine-tune it a bit more, but if we just want to register it so that we have the basic functionality, that is all we need. And then we can, of course, as always, run our server again, and then reload this admin view here, and now we have the address here as well. And it has 3 S's because it's auto-pluralized here, which arguably is a bit off here. We'll fix this in a second. Because I also, of course, want to fix how addresses are displayed here. Just as we did it before by overriding the string output we get when a string is requested. So therefore, I'll go back to the address model, and there add my __ string method, which returns a string that represents this address. And here I'll return a f string where I simply output street, self.street, then self.postal code, and then the city with self.city. With that, if we save this and reload, that's more readable. And I now also want to tweak the address that's showing up here. And for that, we're going to tweak that model in a way we haven't tweaked it yet. We can add a nested class in there, which is a standard Python feature. This is not Django specific. You can have classes nested in other classes. Now, it's an advanced feature and you won't need it too often, but Django uses this feature to allow you to add meta configuration for your model. Because any properties you add to your model itself are treated as fields of that model, which have an implication for what's being stored in the database and what's being rendered in the form in your admin template. If you want to configure behaviors about your model, you therefore can't do that with properties added here. That's why Django expects a nested meta class, which you can add, which you don't have to add, obviously. We didn't add it before, but which you can add to then register special settings in there, which will affect how this model is used by Django. And here we can add a verbose name _ plural. Now that's a special property name Django will watch out for in such a nested meta class to find out how this address model should be output, especially when the plural is needed. There also is a verbose name field which you can use if you want to override the singular form that would be output. By default, it takes your model name, potentially splitting it into multiple words, but it takes that name. Now here we want to override the plural form and say address or address entries instead of address with an extra s at the end. So we can add this setting here, and of course there are more settings you could add, which you can learn about in the official model documentation, but that's a particularly useful setting for ensuring that this model is output correctly in our admin template. So if we save this model now, and we now reload the admin page here, watch address on the left, which currently has 3 S's. It's now address entries, because of that change to the meta class. And that's something we haven't done before, but which you can also do to tweak how it's being output here. Now with that, we can of course also assign relationships with our new address entries, and go to the authors, for example to Tolkien, and move him to London as well, and save, and we get an error. Now why are we getting this error? Because it's a one-to-one relation. Every address can only be used once, so an author can't live at the same address as another author. That's exactly what we want to have with a one-to-one relation. Hence here, for Tolkien, we would add a new address, some street 2 in 12345 London. And we could assign that new address then and save this. So that's the intended behavior. And hence for Max Schwarzmüller, I can only assign myself to another street because the other two streets are already assigned to other authors. Now, in reality, you will probably use one-to-one relations way less often than one-to-many or many-to-many. Nonetheless, sometimes you might need them, and then this is how you can add them, configure them, and use them. Let's now move on to many-to-many.